We have a major update in the New York Islanders' search for the next general manager and president of the franchise, as a wild name has been added to the list of candidates for the New York Islanders, and frankly, this is going to slow down the entire process, as now the Islanders are going to have to wait out at least another round of the playoffs. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Islanders Digest, but first, I really want to drive your attention to this chart. 85.4% of you are not subscribed to the channel yet. If you're an Islander fan, you want more Islanders content just like this, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel. It's free. I do want to thank the 14.7% of you who are already subscribed to the channel. Your support means a lot. I hope this news about the general manager does not upset you guys too much, because frankly, I think this is going to divide a lot of you. First, let's talk about what we do know. Definitely, Pierre LeBrun has added on to Arthur Staple, confirming that the Islanders have gone through their first round of interviews, interviewed 4 to 5 candidates, including the candidates that we know in Kekalainen, Darsh, and Bergman. As you know, if you are a subscriber to the channel, my favorite candidate for this position is Kekalainen, but I have said I think all 3 of these would be candidates for the New York Islanders. And frankly, I was a little surprised that after we got these 3 interviews for these candidates, things were not really moving as fast as I thought they would. I thought the Islanders would try to make a decision. In fact, I originally predicted that the Islanders would be making a decision by tomorrow. Clearly, that is not the case. And the reason is, it seems like they want to interview 1 or 2 more people who are currently involved with the playoffs. And if you're wondering who that is, we're going to get right to talking about that. Arthur Staple included in his recent article for The Athletic, Brendan Shanahan is a candidate for the New York Islanders. Previously, it was seeming like this would not be the case. Frankly, a week ago, it seemed like the Leafs were having a pretty good playoffs. And Shanahan, his contract expires at the end of June this year, and there really would not be any reason for them to move on for him. At least there wouldn't have been a reason if the playoffs continued to go well, but the Leafs are currently struggling again. That core 4 just cannot get it done. And we're not going to jinx anything on this channel. As Islander fans, we are definitely rooting for the Leafs to fall. And maybe if you're a fan of Shanahan, you might root even harder, because if the Leafs get eliminated in this round, it seems like there's a good chance the Islanders are interested in him being the next president of the Islanders. It's definitely going to be a president situation. Shanahan does not seem to have interest in being a general manager, and this is definitely going to make things interesting, because at first it seemed like the Islanders were going with 2 candidates, but then they kind of backtracked into 1, and there is some speculation that that's the owners like not wanting to pay for 2 candidates. I don't know if that's the case. I hope it's not the case if, they're going to make a decision based on saving a little money when it comes to the front office. That is definitely not where you want to spare any money. But still, Shanahan definitely seems like he's going to be more involved than Staple initially thought. Staple kind of dismissed him pretty early, and I thought that was wrong. I mean, I thought it was pretty clear that if things did not go well for the Maple Leafs, he would become available. And the question was, would he be interested? And it seems like Collins, the man who is making the decision for the New York Islanders, along with the other owners, has experience with Shanahan working together in the NHL for a long time. I'll talk really quickly about some of the good that Shanahan does. I know that, he's a Toronto Maple Leaf. You don't want a guy from Toronto. Shanahan does have a pretty impressive resume, and this could work for the New York Islanders. At this point, I really have more fall in love with the other 3 names. But again, Shanahan wants to be president. Maybe he would consider hiring one of those 3 names. Although I do think at this point, this is just kind of complicating things and really opening a can of worms that the Islanders do not have to get into. We're going to talk about the good that has happened for the Maple Leafs under Shanahan, because there is a lot, and especially when you are Island fans, we're recovering from the tenure of Lou Lamoriello, and he was just so focused on disciplined, boring hockey. Shanahan and his Shana plan is the opposite of that, and there is a lot of exciting things that can come with a Shanahan hockey team in Long Island. The issue is, as we're seeing in the playoffs, the whole reason you're going to get this guy is he cannot produce a playoff contending team. I mean, at this point, it's just comical with the Leafs core. And you think they would figure it out. I mean, again, I'm not trying to talk about the Leafs here, but, with Shanahan, I mean, the core 4, while it would be exciting to bring a GM who's created something like that in Toronto, it doesn't work And that's got to be really concerning for Islanders fans. I mean, there is a lot of excitement that came with it. And frankly, before that, the Leafs were not contenders. So even though they haven't gotten it done, this is a team that has been, at least on paper, supposed to be contending for the playoffs every single season. They are a dominant regular season team, something that we have not seen for the Islanders in a long time. And perhaps you have to ask the question, is it something wrong with the Shanahan plan, or is it just something wrong with the players they have? Because on the Islanders, Shanahan is going to be able to assemble a new cast of players, and perhaps he can even learn from his mistakes. On the Maple Leafs, the biggest issue has just been 4 big forwards, the core 4. First overall this year, it's expected to be Matthew Schaefer, so he can really change it up and start to build a new core around a new identity in defense. So there could be good things to Shanahan. I do want to note he does have a vision of exciting and entertaining hockey. You're not going to have any more snooze fest games with the New York Islanders with Shanahan as president. He's going to build a more exciting team. And coming off Lou Lamoriello, this could be really good for the New York Islanders, especially with trying to sell tickets, trying to have a more exciting team to watch. And also a more successful team. I think one of the Islanders' biggest struggles is they're so built for the playoffs that a lot of times they struggle to get through the regular season. I know that's crazy to think about, but we've seen several times, even those teams that made playoff runs with the Islanders, like those really good teams that made it to the conference finals, they struggled in the regular season. They were not built to play regular season hockey. You don't want a GM or president to build a regular season team, but maybe that's a bit of what the Islanders need. I'm just thinking about it here. Personally, I don't want Shanahan to be the next president of the New York Islanders, but considering it is a possibility, I thought we'd bring it up. Now, there is also an update on the 3 guys that we know about: Mark Bergevin, Jarmo Kekalainen, and Matthew Darche. And it sounds like all 3 of these guys did have positive interviews. The one I really want to highlight is Matthew Darche, because he's the guy who's never been a GM in the NHL yet. And Arthur Staple really wanted to add on, focusing that even though he is an assistant GM, he is not your traditional assistant GM. He has been involved with everything for the Tampa Bay Lightning, having a really strong role, going beyond just scouting or helping with contracts. And this is really encouraging, especially if the Islanders do want a breath of fresh air. I wonder, especially when we're talking about Shanahan, perhaps he brings in a guy like Darche. Although my concern with Shanahan is he would simply bring in one of his old guys. Got to be careful when you're signing these guys who've already been there in the NHL. I think one of the big issues I have with Shanahan is he hasn't had time to reflect on his mistakes with the Toronto Maple Leafs. When we were talking about Mark Bergevin, the big thing I really highlighted, and Kekalainen too, and this is what really impressed me with Kekalainen actually, is when you listen to them speak, there is some acknowledgement of mistakes made, especially after they took time away from their previous teams, where it seems like they learned. Especially with Kekalainen, he's really talks about what he would do differently and how he's prepared for a new role if he gets the opportunity. And Shanahan really hasn't had the chance to do that, because this entire time he's just thinking about the Toronto Maple Leafs. So frankly, I don't think he's the best choice, but it seems like Islanders ownership definitely is waiting to interview him. Based on this article, I can't really think of who else would be that candidate. Perhaps they're waiting to see if another GM does get fired, although I can't really see a GM getting fired for losing in the second round. But Shanahan's really the only person I can think about, because it said 1 or 2 candidates. Another name I did think about was Scott White, but in this part of the article, Staple really did emphasize that the Islanders are looking for someone who's done this before, and they're considering Darche so highly, and really he's one of the only assistant GMs that they are considering because he has all this hands-on experience. I don't think that's the case with Scott White, although he is a very intriguing option. For that, I really don't know who this other candidate could be, or perhaps there is none. Perhaps the Islanders are just waiting for Shanahan. They're just not showing their hand. It has been really interesting over the past few weeks how much leaks have come from the New York Islanders, and these definitely are leaks. I heard a couple people saying, oh, these reporters are just saying stuff and they don't know anything. Well, these reporters have been covering the Islanders for a while, and typically they say absolutely nothing. So the fact that all of a sudden all this stuff is coming, I definitely think there is some leaking going on, which is why we're covering everything they're saying. So let me know in the comments what you think about all this. Do you think Shanahan makes sense for the New York Islanders as a president? Again, he would not be the GM likely, so this would be a Shanahan and perhaps one of the candidates we talked about or a different candidate. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. As always, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. My name is Patrick Nilan. This is Islanders Digest. Let's go Islanders.